Referrals come to the center from either the families, the parents, or the teachers, or the therapist working with the students or the individual with a disability. It might be the occupational therapist, the speech therapist, the physical therapist. We do services for all ages, from birth to death. They will call the center, and we do not require any referral from a physician. This is a very community-based organization. If they're school age, we do like to involve the school system into the process because they're going to be the primary implementers during the school day, that 6.5-hour time period. So obviously we want to involve them and look at, because we're talking about their environments and how are they going to be placing these tools into the hands in the daily routine. At home environments or work environments, again, we want to involve all the people on the team that work with that individual to be involved with coming to the center and exploring the tools together. Well, we have other opportunities to involve folks that cannot physically come to that actual consultation or evaluation session. We like to have telephone conversations, emails, list of their primary concerns, so we can involve them as much as possible, even though they physically cannot be here at the center with us during our time with the individual. We encourage everybody possible to come to the session that we're going to be having with the individual, but if they cannot be, we find other mechanisms for them to be involved. We may have telephone conversations prior to the event. They may send us, we may dialogue via email. After we've reviewed the records, we may have many questions to ask. So we'll contact that person and explore things further. So we have a better understanding of everybody's perspectives with the individual and what they're looking for as a result of their opportunities here at the center. That may involve just the family and the student or the individual. It may involve the actual teachers or the therapist with them, but as many people as possible are invited and encouraged to attend. But if they can't, we'll find other ways to find them involved. Okay. For a consultation, we'll do a records review and jumpstart some ideas of some activities we may wish to undertake with them while they're here at the center. Consultations are a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue back and forth amongst team members and the individual and our staff, so that we can make sure that we've properly identified what the problem is and some possible solutions to be embedded in their environments and activities. For most folks, as they come into the center, we'll start out back in our computer lab because it has a nice sized conference table, plenty of space. Everybody can be very comfortable and get acclimated to the center because this oftentimes is their first visit. We want them to be very comfortable, relaxed. We're very informal and compared to maybe some other assessments or consultations they may have received from other individuals. We're much more laid back and relaxing because we want people to be comfortable. And that means everybody on the team to be comfortable about the activity. We'll dialogue of identifying the primary concerns. What do they expect before they leave today? What are they hoping to walk away with? And really the purpose of a consultation is to help them evaluate and come up with a good plan of action. Where are we today? Where are we headed? And how are we going to get there in baby steps? Oftentimes, a consultation does involve active hands-on activities. There's a difference between a consultation and an evaluation in our service delivery. The evaluation is more hands-on and more in-depth with many various pieces of technology to hone in more on a specific device as a recommended device. But during a consultation, we are doing more dialogue and beginning explorations, shall we say. Most people in a consultation want to go quick to the recommendations, and really they're probably not at that step. They really need to be doing some more exploration. They're not ready for someone to say this one particular device is the end-all be-all for that particular person at that time. Assistive technology is evaluated every time you pick it up. and use it. It's not really, doesn't fit the norm of a standard evaluation process in the human service delivery model. Every time I put my eyeglasses on to drive my car, I am determining whether my eyeglasses are still working properly for me. The same way as a child who's using a communication device is every time they pick it up and they're using it, the child and the staff or the family are looking to see, is this device still meeting the needs of this individual? And if not, we need to go back to the drawing board and see where we're going to progress to the next level. Bluegrass Technology Center operates various lending libraries. Pretty much any item in our building can be checked out and borrowed for a short period of time, typically 30-day time period. Many items are free and there's no charge to borrow those items. Other times there may be a nominal monthly maintenance fee to support the ongoing needs of that device. During that 30-day time period, the individual is able to use that device within their environment and trial it before we ask someone to help support it or to purchase it out of our pocket. Bluegrass Technology Center has a long history of advocating for the acquisition of devices by all individuals. We actually developed a funding guide to help families walk through the process and how to locate the most appropriate funding support services to help them in the acquisition of the device.
One of the greatest indicators of adult literacy is the amount of access that children have to books in early childhood. You know, parents often buy books for their kids, but if the child can't pick up that book and flip the pages and read it, they don't get as much access to books as other children do. So a child who has a physical disability, can't read, or can't turn the pages, or a child who can't communicate and can't interact with others and talk about a book is not going to get as much access to books. So what we're doing here at Bluegrass Technology Center is we are taking very common children's books and we're scanning them into the scanner, scanning every single page and creating a separate image for each page. And then we're going to take those images and bring them into PowerPoint. Then we are also narrating the books so that we have a reader read every single page slowly for students that may have trouble understanding. So we have to read it at a little slower rate. And then we add the audio to the PowerPoint. And so students that have limited access can actually pull up a book on the computer and have the book read to them on the computer. So a student, maybe they can't manipulate a mouse, but if the book was up there on the computer and we had a switch attached to it, the student could just hit the switch and the book starts and it starts reading to them. Then we have another version that we're doing that requires the child to just click on the audio and hear it, so it doesn't automatically read, maybe for a child that has a little more access. Or we want them to interact more frequently with the book. They would click on every page to hear it. We're also creating a touch version where there's arrows right on the screen, so if a child is using a touch screen or touch monitor, they would advance through the book by touching on it. So we started out with about 200 books to begin with, and we just keep bringing in more books, and now we're at over 2,000 books that we're trying to get through the process. And when we get done and have all the books done, we will have a lending library so that teachers and parents, those that work with students that have physical or other issues related to accessing books, can check them out and use them with their students. Another piece that we're doing for the book is we're also adding communication boards. So for a student who is maybe autistic and can't communicate, doesn't have that verbal language, you could ask them questions about the book after they'd read it, and the student could still interact and reply to those questions by pointing to the communication boards. So we're also going to be including the communication board with the books when they're checked out. And another piece that we're adding is some comprehension questions. So for parents who may not know exactly what kinds of things to ask their son or daughter after they've read a book, we're including a list of questions that they could ask to help facilitate that communication so it can occur. Yes, we are creating more than one board. This one just happens to be a 20 symbol board, but there are some students that can't handle that many. It's way too much. So we are also doing a 9. So we're doing a 9, a 20, and then we're also doing one that steps through every single activity or sequence that happens in the book, and that might take 2 or 3 pages for that to happen, depending on the length of the book. So there's going to be a variety of boards available. Parents or teachers can borrow up to 5 books at a time, and it will be free for them to borrow and use as they need to, up to 30 days, and then they can come back and check out another 5.
Bluegrass Technology Center is over 20 years old now. It began from really one mom's desire looking for a solution for her young child's needs. She happened to visit a hospital out of state to see a specialist, and while there they showed her a switch and a toy and a computer. And it gave her such hope that she knew one day her child could do those things. And so she came back and, well, while she was there, she asked about I'm in Kentucky, I'm not in this state. Where do I find that in my backyard, in my neighborhood? And surprisingly, the answer was in her backyard. It was at the University of Kentucky, and there was one of the most knowledgeable folks about assistive technology. And this is Dr. Ed Blackhurst at the University of Kentucky. Was recommended and referred to her as being one of the gurus of technology. She came back and she lived blocks from the school, and she went knocking on doors till she found him. And by meeting him, he welcomed her and her child into the classroom and let her explore some things with he and his students. She was able to take classes and grow and develop her skills. And as a result, she met more people wanting to know this and how to share it. So together, they got some community members to help find a location to create a very grassroots, consumer-oriented center that anybody could come to and not require that doctor's referral or a referral from a professional or a specialist, that this was just a way of coming to find information, to seek out dreams and solutions. I came to Bluegrass Technology Center looking for answers for my child. I have a daughter who was born typical child, but at 2.5 months old she had a stroke, which left her with some paralysis on one side and some limitations as she grew and developed. Happened to go to the same preschool as Gene Isaacs, the founder of Bluegrass Technology Center, did. But my daughter also went to the Lexington Hearing and Speech Center for services, and the speech therapist there was just learning about an Apple IIe computer and using it for speech therapy intervention. And she thought I was a exploring young mom willing to engage in new ideas, so she recommended I get a computer for my daughter and work on some language development using this new technology tool that you could have in your house. So I happened to mention that to some friends, and they said, "Oh, you have to connect with Jean. She's the lady. She's trying to do this too." And so I met Jean, and I pestered the heck out of her to say, "What do I need? What do I need? And how do I get it? And oh my gosh, it costs that much, and I can't afford that. Okay, the grocery budget will not handle that." So because I was like a sponge, and she was like the gracious teacher that had so much knowledge to share, I became her student. And together we had other people very similar to me looking for ideas, and we would rope them in to help figure out how can we let more people know about these things. Computers and assistive technology has been with my daughter from the get-go, from that point forward. She was 3.5 when she got her first computer. Today she's 24 years old. We've been using a computer for a long time. The power of it and what it can do, the power of technology and how it can make a difference in a life is so valuable. And having the opportunity to explore at the center with their lending library programs, There's no reason for somebody not to try something and give it a whirl, because it's trial and usage, it's trial and exploration. That's how you learn how to use a piece of technology. You got to sit down and put your hands on it, and you got to go to town with it. It's going to break down. Great, fine, mark that up as success. We'll go get another piece and we're going to try it. And spend your time exploring and making good informed decisions. Doesn't have to be costly. We do a lot of no-tech, low-tech solutions for folks. We believe in the KISS approach, keep it simple, silly. The simpler it is, the more likely it's going to get used on a daily basis, on a regular basis, and it reduces the frustration levels of folks. And the less frustrations, the more likely we will pick the tool up and use it. We operate an adaptive toy and switch lending library program. It's probably the oldest lending library program in the country, and it definitely is probably one of the largest. We have thousands of items that are available for loan. The Adaptive Toy Lending Library Program is a free service to our community and to the region. We do not charge anything for folks to borrow these items. They really are mainly comprised of toys that have been adapted and modified for kids with physical and or cognitive disabilities. When I say kids, I have kids of all ages, in that we do have some more high school, college, and adult type items in our lending library program. We have a new Wii that's been adapted with all types of adapted controllers. So, we run the gamut of a Sesame Street toy to a computer game system for folks to be able to try it out. Obviously, an adapted Wii is kind of pricey. And before I go to buy those adaptations, I want to make sure they're going to work and work for me. And that's the beautiful part of a library. Or if I just want to spend, a couple weeks with my friends and playing the games, and then I'm tired of it and I want to give it back, great. That didn't cost me anything. And we had fun. And I actually probably did some therapeutic activities embedded in my fun activities. And so it was great. Bluegrass Technology Center is a nonprofit agency. We operate off of a board of directors that are volunteers. We have committee members that volunteer their services and time to help us keep our programs up and going. We have volunteers that come in on a daily basis to help us with just daily activities to keep the center functioning and operating. We operate off of funds from anywhere we can get them. We write grants to get new equipment and to do new projects and activities, such as our adapted book project that is totally grant and volunteer supported. We are part of the United Way of the Bluegrass. As a regional service center, we apply for program supports from them, and we're very blessed to have that support. We've been funded by WHA's Crusade for Children, again a state charitable organization that helps support centers like myself. We get funds from private donations. We're into reutilization, so if folks have some assistive technology devices that still have life in them and they no longer need them, or they've developed out of them, we appreciate a phone call and consideration for sharing those with us, because we may place those items either out to a family on a long-term basis or in our lending library program to let folks try that particular device out. Reutilization's good.